So, Digby, at the break, we were talking about sort of the mechanics of what happened this week. We haven't gotten to, which I think we will talk about shortly, the sort of really amazing, broad, important implications of Hillary Clinton being the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, generically speaking. But let's just talk a little bit about Bernie Sanders at this point. One of the things that we said at the break that he had said that he was going to stay in until the Washington primary that's taking place this coming week. In terms of his plans of going to the convention, he seemed to imply earlier in the week in the speech after the six-state primary that he was going to head to the convention and continue to fight for an issue set as opposed to the nomination. We shall see. But I wanted to get your take on what the AP did on Monday evening of this week. They had interviewed presumably some more superdelegates who were willing to say that they were going to support Hillary Clinton. And based on that, they decided to announce that she was the presumptive nominee. I mean, from my perspective, I found that a little bit problematic insofar as we rarely have seen, at least in our modern era, we didn't see this in 2008, anyone referred to as the presumptive nominee until they had clinched the pledged delegates. And part of that was, by planning, like the Obama campaign, clearly did not want that title until they had clinched the pledged delegates, because they were dealing with their own questions of legitimacy. I don't think this taints Hillary Clinton's win, but it does to me sort of say there's a problem with the media because they would never call, let's say, the California primary while the polls were still open in some respects. Well, I wanted to get your take on that.
Well, I agree with you, and I was shocked that they did it, and I don't think either Sanders or Clinton were particularly happy about it because they didn't know how that was going to go, whether it was going to suppress turnout for either one of them. I mean, there was no way for anybody to know a night ahead of time how that might affect, and they had both campaigns had made their plans for California and the rest of the states, based upon the idea that people were going to come out and vote, and the idea that anybody would announce the result of the broader election before that. Just I don't think anybody was happy about it. Now, I did find it very surprising that the AP made the excuse that they did for doing it. They said, well, this is news, and we're a news organization, and we report the news as we get the news, and, how dare you question our journalistic integrity? That is fatuous nonsense. They always withhold, quote, the news on elections. Right. They get exit polls that they do not share with people until such time as the polls close. I mean, there have been ample examples over the years of them withholding information for the purposes of the broader democratic process being allowed to play out. So I don't buy this at all. I don't know why they did it. I think it's very strange. It just didn't make any sense to me, and I don't think they did anybody any favors. It ended up kind of creating a sense of anticlimax for Clinton. I'm sure it made Sanders and his supporters, absolutely livid at the idea that their vote might be suppressed because of it, and I don't blame them for that. So, this is ridiculous. And, these kind of, quote, scoops, they don't mean anything in the Internet age. It's 1 minute, you get your scoop for 10 seconds, and then it's everywhere. Right. I mean, what, are they going to get an award for this? I mean, it was ridiculous. So, I really think the media has to they play a vital role in democracy, and they get a lot of protection and a lot of, legitimate exceptions to our normal rules because of their role in democracy. And it doesn't hurt them to give up that ability to go out and predict a race before it's actually over. They can give that one up. That's not going to be too tough.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, they would not call a race, like you said, based on exit polls, if the polls are still open in a specific state. And what also occurs to me too is that I wonder how many of those super delegates that were interviewed by the AP. I wonder how many are actually were on record, right? I mean, these are some type of like sort of weird anonymous sources at that point. Or I also wonder how many of them thought this was a story that was going to be released on Monday night as
Could very well
opposed to
be.
Tuesday afternoon, or because it's conceivable to me that if I'm and all of these super delegates are either elected officials or former elected officials or party representatives. I mean, I think there's some mistake that people like I don't know
Donors, yeah.
donors are sitting on there. And that's not really the case. I mean, people may have donated, but they're not there by nature of the fact that they're donors. Nevertheless, it's quite conceivable to me that if I'm a congressman or congresswoman from, I don't know, Illinois, and I get a call from the AP, are you going to commit to Hillary Clinton as a superdelegate? I could be thinking like, oh, well, okay, this is a story that'll come out tomorrow. Tuesday, and the voters will have had their say largely but for Washington, D.C. Yeah, I will. And then the story gets released on the eve of a 6-state election, which is important because, one of the things that we're seeing right now is that Bernie Sanders, and we know that Hillary Clinton took 4 days after Barack Obama had clinched it, to concede essentially. Bernie Sanders is in a stage right now where he is trying to gain some form of leverage to bring to the convention, and that could mean they want committee chairmanships or whatnot. There's a whole host of those things that it could mean.